So for those unaware, we recently just had a leak about Black Ops 7 Zombies potentially having armor. And this caused a lot of fans to absolutely lose their minds. And honestly, I kind of get it. I mean, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of how armor works here in Modern Zombies either. But that's when I kind of thought, what does armor even mean? We've actually had it many times over the years, and each time it's been done vastly different than the last. So are we really going to write off Black Ops 7 Zombies already for just potentially having it? Well, to answer that question, today we're diving into the evolution of armor in COD Zombies, the good and the bad of having it in the game, and what I think might actually be at the core of why people hate it so much. Now, first up, to put things into perspective, we gotta talk some Zombies history. Now, while armor itself didn't start until a little bit later, we first saw a way to protect ourselves outside of Jug back in Black Ops 2 and 3 with the addition of the Zombie Shield. This protected only your back, but negated all incoming damage. And when it broke, you had to go pick up a new one from wherever you built it. But the actual idea of armor itself, unlike what a lot of people want to believe, being Cold War zombies, was actually World War II zombies. And this acted as a way to kind of replace Juggernog as a perk. And it basically just acted as an extra hit for whenever you would have died after your initial 3. So for each piece of armor, you got an extra hit to survive. I mean, I get what they were going for with it, but yeah, this shit was kind of ass and no one liked it. In my opinion, it just kind of felt like you would just go down inconsistently, where sometimes you might just not realize you have one piece of armor left and like womp womp or hit down. I don't know, it just didn't really feel good, and it made some of those higher rounds really annoying when you didn't have enough money to buy back armor, and so it was just always a 3 hit, and I don't know, it just didn't really work. But we then saw the next evolution of armor here in Black Ops 4 Zombies, and this was its first appearance in a Treyarch Zombies game. And in Black Ops 4 Zombies, we had a consistent 4 hit down, which somewhat solved the issue of the inconsistent downing with armor, but armor itself also worked quite a bit differently. And this was actually pretty rare to come by, with it only being accessible while you were using a specialist or a perk like Stone Cold Stronghold if you were standing still for a period of time. Now, how this worked is you essentially had an extra bar on top of your health, and this only lasted for usually just a few hits, but instead kind of acted like a mini temporary shield that actually protected you from all directions. And again, when you weren't meeting the specifications of the perk, or again, if you weren't using your specialist, you wouldn't really get access to armor. And then this idea was then carried forward into Cold War Zombies. And this is where it was kind of made a bit more of a permanent addition to your normal health, acquired from killing zombies or purchasing it with salvage. And this actually worked way different than it did before, as now it didn't protect you from hits, it instead reduced overall incoming damage as long as you had armor on your person. And you were actually able to repair it by either going to an arsenal machine and paying for it, or picking up armor plates from killing zombies. And yeah, while it is a permanent addition, you didn't start with it. But whenever you were able to acquire it, you would have that armor bar for the whole rest of your game. And again, unlike the shield we had back in the day, armor this time around is protecting you, doing that damage mitigation from every single direction, not just your back. And in Vanguard, they just did the same thing. But in MWZ and Black Ops 6, we saw the next evolution, which is kind of what we know it as today. The most immediate change that you'll notice here is that you actually now spawn in with armor, and the higher armor tiers are actually purchased off the wall instead of with salvage at like an arsenal machine. And now, rather than just walking over the plates to refill the armor, you now have to put in the plates yourself, adding a bit more of a skill gap to the armor system. So with all that said, it's clear that the idea of armor itself doesn't necessarily mean it has to work exactly how it does right now. Again, this is something that's worked very differently every single time we've seen it. And now that we got that in mind, I want to kind of hop into what people like and don't like about the current armor system. So first up, what do people like about it? One thing I've heard is that it helps counter enemy spam. And this makes the game actually playable, as without armor, the amount of hits you would take and the damage they deal to you, you would die so unbelievably fast. So basically, when you're out of armor in something like Black Ops 6 Zombies, you're as good as dead. Unlike the shield, which was more of something like a luxury, and honestly even some prior iterations of armor like Black Ops 4 Zombies, armor now feels more like a requirement. And the argument that something like Black Ops 6 Zombies would suck without it is valid. The game in its current state, it has to be there. We can't just remove it. As yeah, with the amount of boss spam and how fast the zombies are and all these range attacks, it's honestly insane. But they could easily just kind of tone down that problem, as it was never really something we had to deal with in the past. So armor kind of just feels like a bit more of a band-aid solution to a problem that was never really a problem until now. But the point is that I get that we can't just remove it in something like Black Ops 6 Zombies, as I get it that the game kind of needs something like that right now. Next up is that it helps new players get into zombies. Now here in Black Ops 6 Zombies, you spawn with armor, and again, that armor is negating damage that is coming in from the zombies. And yeah, that helps some newer players not go down as fast there at the beginning of some games. But again, if we kind of want to get new players into the mode, why can't we just do that in a dedicated easy mode instead of making the whole game balanced around it? I don't know, kind of like we had in Black Ops 2 and even Black Ops 4. I mean, we do not need to spawn in with this. Like, you don't even really need Jug until well into your game if you're staying on top of your armor. And it really removes a lot of that early game tension, and this ends up having a negative effect on both long-term players as well as those new ones when they finally get good. It just makes those early rounds way more boring and incredibly easy, even with something like the Rampage Inducer turned on. And lastly here, the quality of life. Alright, now don't hate me for saying this, but conceptually, I do prefer armor over the shield system. Now let me explain. I personally think how armor works has the potential to be far better than the shield ever was, gameplay-wise. As like when your shield broke back in the day, it felt like an absolute slog to have to travel across the entire map to go get a brand new one off the table, which again can never be moved and is kind of stuck wherever you put it. And yeah, this was improved a bit in Black Ops 4 Zombies with the carpenter repairing it, as well as being able to repair it preemptively if you were just kind of running by the table. But what the armor system allows us to do is kind of fix it whenever we want to. And having to manage that resource yourself is actually kind of a fun new addition that adds a little bit of skill on top of the system, while also removing the tedious nature of how the shield used to work. Now, it doesn't work exactly that way in practice, but that being said, conceptually, I love the idea. And with the shield, while it was certainly cool having to find these little parts around the map to build something so powerful, it could sometimes be incredibly aggravating for both new players and even veterans who might not know or remember where one singular part is around the map. And how armor works with it being a wall buy, you still have to open up and progress the map just like the shield required, but it's much more obvious to all players. Again, I do want more hidden buildables to be here in Zombies, but I feel like the shield and armor has just kind of become a bit more of a core part of these maps and has kind of evolved past the original hidden nature of it in my opinion. And well, time to get into the good stuff. It's about time we talk about the arguments against it. One of the ones I hear the most is that it doesn't feel like Zombies. And what people tend to bring up in this conversation is the zombie shield, which yeah, was also ripped straight from multiplayer of Black Ops 2. But they did give it that feeling of zombies and made it aesthetically fit the map that it was on. And this one, I totally understand. The armor itself just doesn't make sense sometimes, especially when we're going into this ancient tomb in this otherworldly world of goofy shit, and we got military looking ass armor plates just everywhere. But again, this also does not mean that armor has to be this way. Just like the shield in Black Ops 2, they could have easily ripped it 1-to-1 and it would not have fit at all, with it being all futuristic. But no, they reworked it for zombies. And having armor doesn't mean it has to look boring. As I've touched on before, you can make it feel like something that actually fits zombies. We've got stuff like 115 and Ethereum. Yeah, Ether plate! Or you could at least just like scuff it up or something and make it feel something that's not so bland. In something like Citadel, for example, you could have easily made the wall buy look like a knight armor or something like that. What I'm trying to say is that this isn't necessarily an issue with armor itself. This is an issue with the game as a whole. We got other stuff like the HUD, the ammo boxes, and objective markers that just don't really feel like zombies. And I know someone's gonna be like, how do you make objectives feel like zombies? Yeah, they already did that. The Notebook and World War II Zombies. There it is. Now, the next thing I hear a lot that people don't like about armor is that it's annoying to deal with. And this is the kind of downside of what I said earlier about having to manually repair. And what happens here is that, yeah, you're repairing your armor manually, but you're doing it so often, far more than we ever had to with the shield. And the reason is because we've got this enemy spam, as I mentioned before, and that's with armor negating any damage from any direction. And this means when enemies are ramping up a bit, they're just tearing through your armor, making it feel incredibly annoying. So you're just constantly repairing it over and over and over again, and if it runs out, you're basically donezo. And well, this kind of leads into another thing, where if people find it annoying, a lot of people love pulling out the just don't use it argument. And yeah, it just doesn't work here with armor because the entire game is balanced around this. As without armor on higher rounds, zombies are reaching over 100 damage per hit, which is on top of super sprinters and enemy spam. Due to the fact that the game is balanced around this, we have to use the armor system. Like I said before, unlike the shield, which yes, was helpful, but when it went away, it wasn't damn near impossible to stay alive like it is now. And lastly here, the biggest problem that I've seen is that it makes the game too easy. And this is an interesting one, as yeah, you spawn it with armor and it makes those early rounds a lot easier, even with those ramped up zombie speeds that we have here in Black Ops 6 Zombies. And like I said before, it kind of kills that early game tension and makes a lot of those early rounds a bit more boring. But this isn't just the beginning of the game. Even on later rounds, it's still easy if you're camping, because if you're camping, you're not getting hit too much, so when you do get surrounded, that armor is negating damage coming in from every single hit you're taking, allowing you more than enough time to whip out something to get rid of all the zombies. But it also makes the game too hard, as if you're not camping on those later rounds, you're going to be hit by zombies a lot more often, even if you're not going down. And as I said before, this means you're going to be running out of armor, and when you do, you're as good as dead. And this effectively killed the strategy of training on high rounds, which since as long as I can remember has always been a core part of Zombies. And trying to train on high rounds now and getting down the second you run out of armor is just not fun. But what you might be thinking is, how can armor make the game both harder and easier at the same time? Well, I think it's about time we talk about the worst change in COD Zombies history and what I believe to be the true culprit behind everyone's hatred for armor: zombie damage scaling. Whenever I talk about armor, it's incredibly hard not to mention the amount of damage that zombies do to you. And the reason why armor feels required, the reason why the game is too easy at the start, and the reason it feels too hard later on is because the zombies' damage is always shifting. Ever since Cold War Zombies, zombies now at the start of the game do reduced damage. But as the game goes on, they slowly scale up more and more, until later on in your game when they're doing an ungodly amount. and this just happens at random round milestones, with 2 in particular that I know of like 11 and 31. And I honestly don't even know what the rest of them are, as there's zero indication of when these actually happen. The zombies' damage just randomly goes up. Ever wonder why randomly just after round 30 the game just doesn't feel as fun anymore? Well, it's likely because whenever you're running out of armor, you're dying faster than you did before. As whoops, oh, the zombies' damage went up. Oh, you should have known that. Oh, you should have known that. Like I said, this started in Cold War Zombies and has continued until now. It sucked back then, and it sucks now. The early rounds were already too easy before we even spawned in with armor, as again, we had zombies damage scaling on top of loadouts. And now in Black Ops 6 Zombies, spawning with armor just makes this problem even worse. The core of this is that zombies are already doing reduced damage, and if they did that normal 50 per hit off round 1, spawning with armor wouldn't be nearly as big of a deal as it is now, as you would actually want to go get a better gun, or go get Jug, or even better armor. And if it always stayed at 50, which again would be 3 hits without Jug and 5 hits with, just like the game always was, later rounds armor wouldn't feel like a requirement, as you wouldn't have to plate up every 2 seconds to avoid being 2 to 3 hit by zombies like we do now. And mind you, that's with fully upgraded Jug. Oh, so why don't you just use the turtle shell augment? Honestly, I'd love to, but the problem is that this does not solve the issue. As like I've said before, the game is entirely balanced around damage scaling. And you can't even get this effect until you get Jug, meaning that early game until you open up the map and buy it, it's still too easy and there's zero way around that. And when you get it, yeah, it's a lot of fun. That is until damage scaling kicks in and zombies start doing absolutely insane amounts of damage, making the later half of your game absolutely miserable. As later on, taking 90 a hit from zombies makes me feel like I'm actively being punished for trying to enjoy the game later on. I honestly believe this is the root of the issue here, and it either needs to go or we need a classic mode where damage stays consistent. Or at the very least, give people an indicator of when damage actually scales, as in my opinion, that is just flat out bad game design to have a system like that completely obscured from the average player. So yeah, I absolutely despise damage scaling. But no, I don't hate the idea of armor itself. Personally, for the future, I think a mix of the shield and the armor together is the best way to go about it. As if you haven't played Black Ops 6 Zombies yet with Turtle Shell, it feels great. Again, when damage is how it should be from 11 to 31, playing with Turtle Shell, it feels like the best system mechanically by far. It's less hidden than the shield, it's got the quality of life, being able to repair it on the fly. It still retains the mechanics of how that old shield worked, by fully protecting you from the back but not from the front sides. And again, because of that, you're still somewhat vulnerable, keeping the challenge of the game intact. Turtle Shell plays great, but again, like I said, before getting Jug, and also after round 30, it just doesn't hold up. And yes, while right now armor doesn't quote-unquote feel like zombies, neither would the shield if they wouldn't have zombified it back in the day, which again is something they can easily do here going into Black Ops 7 Zombies. What I think we need here is the Turtle Shell functionality to be how armor works at base. And I say that so that the game can be properly balanced with that in mind, leaving us room to finally banish damage scaling to the depths of the Dark Ether and that big asshole that 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙀𝙀. Or at the very least, just give us a separate mode that plays like that. Whether it's armor or a shield or some magic protection spell or whatever, we need damage in zombies to stay consistent. Zombies should always do 50 a hit. And thinking about it, if the game really played like this and we even still spawned in with armor, but it instead acted like a mini shield we can upgrade later on throughout the game and again repair on the fly, but hey, it was also still a 3 hit from zombies from the front and sides on round 1, while I wouldn't prefer spawning in with it, I honestly don't think I'd mind that much. Playing with Turtle Shell alone proved to me that this can work. I honestly think it's the way that it looks, how the base ability currently works, lessening damage from all around you, and how the whole game is balanced around it with zombie spam and damage that are the things that need some adjusting. So yeah, even as a diehard fan of classic zombies, I don't think armor itself is the issue here. Nor do I think we should write off Black Ops 7 Zombies already by seeing that it might potentially be there. I really just think we should wait and see for ourselves. And so I'm curious, what are your thoughts on armor? And do you agree with me or do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments. And hey, if this video got you thinking about how Black Ops 6 Zombies might play with more classic mechanics, I've actually got a dedicated video to that on screen now, where I talk about the now removed Black Ops 6 Zombies classic mode, Jingle Hells. Well, that's about it for me. See ya.